Hello, my name is Anna Markey, and this is my video submission for the assignment Story of Us, Story of Now. The assignment first asked us to define community in our own words, and the typical definition of a community is a group of people in the same area that have a characteristic in common. I like the idea of a community as like a feeling of fellowship with others because we share common interests, goals, attitudes, etc. It's more of an interconnection of people with the same ideals. The community that I felt personally a part of and still feel a part of is a community of people that consider themselves stewards of the earth, or as Aldo Leopold put it, biotic citizens. These people are broad thinkers, and they realize that small actions can have larger implications, such as just recycling a plastic water bottle or a soda can, or even limiting water usage while they're brushing their teeth. And those small actions can have bigger implications, especially if more and more people do these small actions. It becomes a bigger global movement. I really felt I was part of a community that consisted of biotic citizens when I decided last minute to go to New Mexico. I knew no one that was going on this trip to learn about field ecology and field zoology and just conservation environmental science in general. And I didn't know anyone, but I made friends for life. We moved to a small ghost town named Hermosa, New Mexico. It's on a small plot of land in the middle of the Gila National Forest, about 3.5 miles from the Aldo Leopold Wilderness. It's a beautiful area, and the buildings that you can see are the buildings that are left from this ghost town. On the farthest left, hidden by trees, is actually the old hotel of the town, and it was spared from floodwaters, along with the middle building, which is the old mercantile. The building to the right is a relatively new built of a ranch house, and that was added on obviously later. And people will stay there to go hunting, and you can rent it. And we had it for about 3 months in the middle of this beautiful landscape. Part of this experience in New Mexico was to go backpacking throughout the wilderness. And wilderness areas are areas where there's no human machinery such as chainsaws for logging or vehicles such as ATVs. They're supposed to be lands untouched by human public without any infrastructure or anything going on. Doing so allowed us to experience what some people might consider true nature or true wilderness, where there's no one around for miles. We were probably about 4 hours, even by helicopter, from any assistance, like any hospital, any help from anyone else. The only communication we had to the outside world was a satellite phone, only used for emergencies. Being so isolated from anywhere else or anyone else allowed us to truly experience how humans can influence the landscape in such a different way. Like, even though there was wilderness and we were in it and no one was supposed to be there except for potentially Forest Service crews to clear trail, we still found human evidence throughout the wilderness. Some of this evidence was litter, such as mylar balloons, and we even found a container of gelato. Obviously it was eaten, but there was still an empty container. There was also old logging equipment and pieces of metal and steel that were left over from the time before the Aldo Leopold Wilderness was designated wilderness and was used for logging. And it was interesting to see how nature kind of grew around it and took it back, but the evidence was still there. You can't really hide a giant piece of metal logging equipment in the wilderness, at least not yet. The trees had grown back, but the equipment was still there, and it was interesting to know how long human impact can last even in one area, and seeing it firsthand made us all realize that even something as simple as leaving a piece of equipment or cutting down a tree can take the forest decades, if not centuries, to recover from. The second part of this experience was being able to attempt to capture mountain lions. We were lucky enough to capture 2 within a 12-hour period. The one on the left was the first one that we caught and collared, and the second one was the next morning we caught that one. And it was a really thrilling experience to actually see these animals up close and be part of this team that was able to collar them and then track them for a while afterwards. I felt very disconnected from this community when we heard that the first lion we collared on the left actually had to be shot and killed by, I believe, the Department of Natural Resources due to the fact that he was eating endangered bighorn sheep. And I was under the impression that we were to let nature exist as nature exists just in general, and it was disheartening to realize that even though a bighorn sheep is a natural prey animal of these mountain lions, the lion was still killed for acting in its natural way simply because the preservation of the bighorn sheep was prioritized over the life of the lion. So I found that disheartening, but very interesting as to how to rank a species priority in a community or in a niche of it itself. This experience, especially finding out that one of our lions had to be taken out and removed due to simply acting on natural instinct, challenged me to push harder to understand how biotic communities work, how to be a biotic citizen to allow nature to proceed as normal, and inspired me to take broader strokes and do a little bit more. It made me think that I need to wake up and ask, how can I be a good citizen to the earth today? What else can I do besides just passively walking through the day? And how can I actively be an actual biotic citizen and a good steward to the earth? Some of the actions that I push myself to take every day, and I encourage my community to take as well, are simple actions such as buying local foods instead of going to chain grocery stores, or even growing your own garden and growing your own vegetables in your backyard. There are also things like using less water throughout my day and walking places instead of driving. There's also bigger actions that can be taken, such as lobbying and signing petitions for more renewable energy, and these actions are simple enough, and knowing the implications of how humans can affect wilderness that's surrounded by national forest with no one else around, it's important to take even small actions because they have larger implications than you might even see. Taking small steps can lead to large global impacts over time, whether one realizes it or not. When I look towards the future, I see a beautiful, renewable work in progress. Nothing is ever perfect, and the work towards a better earth for everyone is never done. But hopefully, we can all see ourselves as part of a global community that asks itself, how can I be a good citizen to the earth today? So thank you for your time and listening to my presentation.